An interesting thing happens when you start observing the mind, the ego. And most of us go through our lives just completely unaware that we're dominated or ruled, or we're like a puppet on a string based on what the ego or what the mind says. It will say something where it will give us negative feedback that, you're no good at this, you can't do that, or that person doesn't like you. And then it's like a program, our body and our mind and our being will act out on this programming. And for most people, it's subconscious. Even people that are starting to awaken or become aware, the majority of the day is spent in this unconscious puppeteering, this unconscious following of the monkey mind. So the monkey mind is our master for most of us. And once you start awakening and become aware, you start shifting. And it becomes, you see a little bit of a gap or space between the mind, the monkey mind, and the observer. The part that can say, oh my gosh, that's the monkey mind's telling me this or telling me that, or that's not who I am, or it's the stillness, it's the quietness. And Eastern religions talk about this, Taoism, Buddhism, and things like that. And it's a beautiful thing. But be careful, because what happens as you start awakening, you start becoming more aware. The observer starts becoming more aware, and you start seeing the immense dysfunction of the mind. The mind and the ego is incredibly dysfunctional. And at first, you think things are getting worse because now you're becoming conscious. What you were unconscious or subconsciously obeying or acting out on previously, now you're becoming aware, and it's a little bit scary because you start seeing just maybe the darkness or the sadness or the depression or the negativity of the monkey mind. Blah, 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 blah. But be patient and wait that wave or that tsunami out. Because one of the things when I read like a really a book that illuminates me, when I first started reading these books, I'd go, oh my gosh, I'd want to do this thing, and then I would be unable. I'd want to live in the present, and I would be able to do it maybe a minute a day, and I would be unable to consistently live what I wanted to, what my conscious mind wanted to. It was really frustrating. I'd beat myself up. I'd be sad about it. And I didn't realize it's a process. I think there's this myth that awakening or enlightenment happens like that. It's not. Anything you become a master at or good at is a process, is a step by step. And it's the journey, it's the steps that brings the joy, that brings the awakening. And it's really exciting to see the growth and how far you've come. So during that observation stage, you're not resisting, you're not fighting the neuroses of the mind. You're not telling the monkey mind to shut up, stop it. You're not that. You're just observing. You're the quiet, silent observer, that part of you. And what that does, it creates a gap, it creates space between who you truly are and all that garbage, all that programming that we've gotten from our childhood, from our primary years where we were very susceptible to programming. And you just start observing. And one of the things I struggled with was perfectionism. I would, for what not going into how I became that way, but I started understanding the roots. Why perfectionism? Why did I become a perfectionist? I started reading some books on perfectionism, and I just had a light bulb went off. Okay, I did that because I overcompensated. We all as humans, we seek pleasure or pain, and when we have pain, we tend to go to extremes to overcome the pain or to avoid the pain. And so one of the things when you're criticized a lot, you'll say, okay, if I do things perfectly, I will no longer be criticized. And that's what you strive for, is to have this sense of perfection in what you do in order to avoid the pain. And it seems logical. It's kind of like a balancing act where the mind tries to overcompensate to not allow you to suffer. And what happens is, in maybe growing up as a child, maybe or maybe not this behavior worked, probably it didn't work, but this gets so ingrained in us that we are never able to drop this crutch. And in fact, the crutch becomes a noose that we end up not being able to break free of. And so the first step is, whatever your particular issue is, do some investigation. Dig deep and find what the roots are. Read some books, go on the internet, go on Amazon, and just kind of try to, it helped me to find out where this came from and kind of go into my past and then say, oh, okay, this is the reason I'm doing this. And then you start plucking the roots. What happened next is I started observing this automated conditioned response when I would do things or when I would say certain things, that I'd want to say it right. Or if I make a mistake, I'd dwell on it and beat myself up and say, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And I started saying, oh my, well, you know, everything has a learning curve. Everything. So of course I'm going to make a mistake initially. That's part of the process. That's part of the learning curve. And started cutting myself slack, but I still was ingrained in that behavior, but now I was aware of it and I observed it. And each time I observed it, I'm creating a little bit more space, or I'm breaking that conditioned, automated habit pattern that has plagued me for so many years. And that's what we do, is just embrace the observer and connect to the observer. Even, you know, spending 3 minutes of just deep breathing to connect with the observer, because otherwise we are just slaves to our conditioned automated responses. And that's the first step. You start creating a gap, and then you start seeing, oh my gosh, I would then put myself in situations where I would have perfectionist tendencies. Something wouldn't be arranged the right way, or I would have said something wrong, and I would just allow that to be, not resist it. I would just observe it. Well, you know what? That's not so bad. Things didn't go perfectly. That's okay. And as this process continued, I started looking forward to challenges where I could break free of this tendency of perfectionism. If I didn't get the right job, or I didn't get the job interview didn't go well, or if I was talking to a girl and I said the wrong thing and stumbled and things didn't go well there, or if people made fun of me, or whatever the case might be, I got lost and took the wrong way and wasted an hour of my time, I would start looking forward to these as like mini challenges, like in a video game, that I would have to be with and just learn how to first observe, and then comes acceptance. And it's really exciting. So try that with your particular, whatever your particular, we all have our own particular neuroses or issues. But oftentimes we bite off more than we can chew, and we could say, okay, I'm going to stop being perfectionist starting today. And it falls by the wayside. Or we try to use willpower and force to overcome what we feel the weaknesses or the bad habits or the things that are not working in our life. And it's not about force. Read Wu Wei. It's about non-action. It's about not efforting, not trying so hard, and just being, relaxing. I mean, this society's so conditioned. I gotta get here, I gotta do this. If I'm gonna succeed, I gotta work hard, I gotta sweat, I gotta have pain. And it's just, there's a deeper place that authenticity can come from, where it's not ego-based. And you just play with that. You play with that energy. And you spend time with that energy. It's so important to have balance and getting in touch with who we truly are, whether it's taking baths and just unwinding, listening to beautiful music, journal writing, taking walks, going hiking, sitting by rivers, sitting on park benches. It's becoming your own best friend again, getting to know who you are beyond ego. And once you start tapping that, it's slow, but be patient. It's amazing what you're capable of. It's like a flower blossoming or a huge redwood tree. You can't rush the redwood. It starts off as a seedling, but you nurture it, you give it sunlight, you give it fertilizer, you give it soil, and it sprouts to this just magnificent being, this just magnificent tree. That's it. Thanks for listening.